Welcome to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the show designed to help make middle age your prime time of life by defying the notion that once you reach 40, 50, or even 60 years old, your crowning achievements are all behind you. Regardless of whether you're just approaching 40 or are firmly entrenched in your middle years, it's time to launch your very own personal journey toward a joyful and purpose-filled second half of life. Each week, host Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, will discuss the challenges common to middle age and help guide you to a brighter tomorrow. Now, here's Roy.
Well, hello, and a hearty welcome to this week's edition of Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the show designed to help make the years after 40 the best years of your life. And today we're going to take our program down on the farm. And regular listeners may know that I reside in Iowa, the heart of the farming country, the state where the tall corn grows. But although I grew up in Iowa and I moved back here, my father worked in insurance, and I have never lived on a farm. But my guest today is entirely different. She's lived out of town most all her life. And as she entered middle age, Dr. Sandra Matheson found herself divorced, unable to continue her career as a veterinarian because of work-related chemical sensitivities, and stuck with a money-losing farm, and where then she got beaten up by a cow. Well, guess what? Sandra picked herself up, dusted off, and set out on a successful career as a lady rancher, which has become the metaphor for her life. And whether you presently face a similar midlife crisis, or perhaps you simply are stuck in the same old, wrong job, tough relationships, poor health, lousy finances, whatever, Sandra is here to inspire you, regardless of age, to become your very own cowgirl, or in my case, I guess, cowboy. And she's here to explain why you can seize life and wrangle what you want, finding your purpose, embracing maturity, using what you've learned, filling your bucket list, and having some fun. And here's Dr. Sandra Matheson's remarkable biography. Growing up on a farm, she's a retired veterinarian, currently an active rancher, an author, an educator in regenerative agriculture, and she owns a grass-feed beef and yak operation in northwest Washington State, and also is an avid photographer and a documentary film producer. And Sandra's passion is helping folks like you and me become more successful in our businesses and personal lives. And she's author of a brand new book we'll preview today titled Thrive After 40, How to Seize Life and Grow Your Dreams. And howdy, Sandra Matheson. Hearty country welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Well, before we get started on the good stuff, will you please describe the circumstances a few years back when you got beaten up by a cow? Did you and Bessie make up later?
Well, I've been around animals all my life, and I can usually read them pretty well. But once in a while, you'll get one that you just are not quite sure about. And it really was just simply trying to get the animals in the chute so we could do the actual vaccinations. And there were a couple heifers out in the pen in the corner, and I was out there, and I knew one was a little nervous and the other one was pretty calm. And so I was talking to him, thought I was doing everything right, and the one turned around and went where she was supposed to, and the other one suddenly started bucking and started kicking me with both of her rear legs, which is unusual for a cow. Usually they just kick once and they leave.
That's the danger zone with a cow, I know.
I thought I was out of the danger zone, but apparently not. Anyway, she repeatedly kept kicking me, and I was afraid she'd kick me in the head, so I hung on to a panel and just let her kick me, and she pretty well messed up both legs, and I was out of commission for quite a while.
Oh, that sounds like utter disaster.
Yes, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, let's get serious. Entering middle age, you found yourself unable to continue in your veterinary career and stuck with a money-losing farm. What inspired you to pick yourself up and the passion to revitalize the family ranch? Did the inspiration come from a single event or a series of events, or what happened there that got you all charged up and going forward in that time of your life?
Well, I grew up on the farm, and the farm has been in the family for over 60 years. And so, you know, it really is a place that I love and a place that I wanted to remain living on.
Yeah.
And when the time came that I was not able to work in my veterinary career, and traditionally the farm was losing money, it just came down to the choice of, if I want to be able to, you know, stay here, I'm going to have to make this work. And it is, I mean, it really was the fact that I just had to make a choice, and I decided I am going to have to do something. So what I did was I wanted to try to put up a website. At that time, I didn't really even know how to do that. So I didn't have much money. I had very little money at the time, and I found a business coach. I spent 6 months working with her and got a website up, and then all of a sudden had some interest from some of the grocery stores, and from there it just grew and became, at that point, a profitable venture, and I was able to stay on the farm and keep the cattle that I love so much.
The wonderful thing is you knew what your passion was, and you were following your passion. And it seems like when somebody does that, they almost always in some way succeed. It's when you're following somebody else's game plan that life can get pretty frustrating and tiresome.
And I agree with that, because you really have to have passion for what you're doing. If it's not something you really are invested in, something you don't really care about, you know, you're not going to keep doing it, or it's generally not going to work out.
Well, in your promotion, you describe yourself as a farmer every day in every way, the core of my being. Can you please give us a glimpse into what farm life means to you and how you've embraced maturity from your perspective of lifetime on the farm? I know that's a pretty big question, but maybe give us a little insight to what it's like to be a farmer every day in every way.
Well, it really is, to me, it's having that connection with the animals and having that connection with the land. To me, one of the most wonderful moments is just to go stand out there on a nice day, watch the animals graze, just being out there with them and, you know, listening to the birds. And to me, it's just a really special time. One of my favorite times of the year is when we have new babies on the ground, new calves, and watching them run and play. I mean, to me, that's really wonderful. So there really are a lot of really wonderful moments on the farm, but there's also there's a lot of hard work involved.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, an awful lot of hard work. And
especially for you farmers out there that still raise livestock. A lot of farmers around here just plant their corn and soybeans and let them grow.
Yeah, and that would be simpler, I think, in that, you know, you never know if in the middle of the night, you know, something's going to happen, or, you know, you're ready to go someplace and you realize that, you know, an animal needs help, or and sometimes it's under nasty weather conditions. You know, it's not easy. I'll be really honest with you. It's not easy. But then there are the rewards of knowing that, you know, you're making a difference, or you saved a life, you know, or you're improving the soil, you're improving the land. All of those things are very rewarding.
I also love the way you put it, that you know that if you weren't raising the food, who would? Or if you weren't managing the farm and protecting the land, who would? It really, anytime you have a passion in life, it's so much more vital if you know you're helping someone else by what you do rather than just helping yourself. Because passion for selfishness doesn't really accomplish very much. But well, let's turn to those of us who don't live on a farm. You tell us that as a farmer grows his or her crop, we non-farmers can make choice to seize life and grow our dreams after age 40. That's an interesting comparison. Can you please summarize a few ways successful farming is like grasping destiny and taking control?
Yeah, it's, for me, I think that one of the things that I've come to realize in farming is that, there are going to be some things that happen, some bad things that happen. But just as in any aspect of life, it's not what happens, but it's how you respond to it and your attitude about it. And so, you know, if I'm out here on the farm and something happens, nobody else is going to take care of it. I need to take care of it. And I can't just simply shrug my shoulders and say, you know, oh, well, you know, worry about it tomorrow, or, you know, not going to.
If something bad happens in my life, if I just leave it unattended, I'm likely to dry up and wither the same as your
exactly. Exactly. And so it really, you know, just as we grow our animals or we grow our crops, we really need to grow our future, what we want. I was just appalled a few years ago when I would see some of the people that I grew up with, you know, or other people that I meet that are my age, and, you know, they're frustrated, they're not happy, they look like they're 20 years older than they are, and, you know, they're just, it's like they quit living sometimes. And it.
Yeah, I experienced that at our high school reunion a few years back. It was amazing, the difference in appearance of people all the same age.
Yeah, and so for me, it's about really just like a farmer has a plan. I have a plan on, you know, how I'm going to graze my animals. I have a plan on which animals I'm going to keep, which ones I'm not going to keep, you know, how many animals can I run on the farm. And so I have a plan for all of that. So we really, if we want to be able to grow our life or grow our dreams in the way we want them, we really need to take action. We don't just, you know, I can't just sit here and see what happens. It really does take planning, and it takes steps, and sometimes they're little baby steps.
Yeah.
But it does require taking some action to make things happen in your life and to do what you want to do. You know, the thing that I hear so often is that, you know, when people are dying and they're asked, you know, what is your biggest regret in life? It's usually that they didn't do something that they wanted to do.
The saddest thing you can utter when you're on your last days is "if only" or "I could have been."
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
That's the saddest thing. Well, a common criticism of folks over 40 that we become too set in our ways. As you put it, routine becomes, well, routine. What, in your opinion, is the reason for this? Are we influenced too much by society's traditional notion of old age or old or over the hill?
I think that's part of it. I mean, we hear all the time, oh, you got to be careful now because you're getting older. I hear that, you know, being a farmer, because I'm out there, you know, wrestling cows and things. and
you're a little more active.
I'm not as strong as I used to be, right? And I realize that I have limitations now, and I have to work around that. But really, yeah, there is just how can I say? There really is some influence on the outside, but I think it's more of an influence that comes from the inside.
Amen.
That you know, we think, okay, well, I'm getting older, so I can't do that, or you know, I don't have enough money, you know, I can't afford to do that.
Well, my best years are all behind me, which is really the worst one of all, I think.
Yeah, and to me, I think about, you know, if I could go back now, would I want to, you know, go back to when I was younger? And I think about, oh, gosh, that was, you know, we think those are the best years, but they were really hard, and we made mistakes, and we had, you know, frustrations, and you know, I'm a lot smarter than I used to be, and I would not like to go back to that point where, you know, I was young and naive, I guess you might say.
So true.
I got so much experience behind me now, and
we shouldn't regret our past experience. We should learn from it, and you know, maybe recognize where we made mistakes in the past. But it does absolutely no good to fret over it and say, if only I'd done this 20 years ago, or blah blah, whatever it is. That gets you nowhere.
Yeah. So really, if you really want to do something, you know, it's just sit down and figure out how can I do it. I'm actually leaving this week. I'm going to go to Bali to a retreat, and I've been wanting to do it for years. And then I thought, oh gosh, I need to listen to my own advice. I just decided, got some money saved up, and I'm going, and I'm excited about it. And, yeah.
Well, here's a good reason or a good question for a successful lady rancher. What does the term mean, and how do you connect to your inner cowgirl or cowboy? And do you have to abandon your inner city apartment or suburban home and buy a farm? How do I connect to that cowboy?
I think no, you don't have to buy a home in the country to do that. It really is about looking at the world with a little different perspective. Being a farmer, you have to be aware of what's happening around you all the time. And so I think that has really helped in terms of my observation skills and just appreciating nature and appreciating what's out there. And so it could be something as simple as, taking a walk and noticing the flowers, or noticing something that's different, or talking to people, saying hi to people along the way. But
especially
really
being aware of that inner critic, because I know you point out in your promotion that holds so many of us back, and if we really understood where it was coming from and why it may not even apply today and how we can overcome it if it is for real, that's so much part of it too, I think. But
it really is. I mean, I think about when I was in 6th grade, I had it was actually a visiting teacher counselor that was there, a substitute. And it happened to be my day to go in to talk about the future, right, when you're in 6th grade. And he told me that because I had bad handwriting and I was left-handed, that I would never graduate from high school and I would be a failure in life. And
no lefties can graduate from high school, I guess.
Yeah, and I thought, how many children, has he ruined? But if you hear that again and again, you begin to believe it. And so
then it gets down in your subconscious mind, and you don't even know where it's coming from at some point. You just assume I'm bad handwriting or no good or whatever it is. It's such a tragic thing. But your book's chapter 12 is titled Stress, Manure Happens. Why is it so important as a mature adult to manage stress?
Oh, yes, stress. That's a big one. And, we all have a little stress from time to time, sometimes more often than others. But really the stress is a killer. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's so much medical evidence that, if you're stressed, you don't sleep as well, you're more prone to various medical conditions. And it really just wears on your life. I have seen people transform that ordinarily were, happy, cheerful people. I've seen them physically transform and the expression on their face transform to look very hardened when they're going through something that's stressful. And they actually even look different. And, of course, their physiology is going to be different too when they're under a great deal of stress, which again is going to lead to multitude of other problems. But then I've seen those people get overcome whatever the situation was, and that stress is relieved, and again, like physical changes that I can see, even in their face and such, and of course in their health is much better as well. So stress is something that we need to manage. And it's not, stress is going to happen. Things happen. Manure happens, as we say on the farm. And
or on the bumper sticker, a little different name
on the
for
bumper
manure.
Sticker. Yeah. But you really just, I know for me, what I do is something happens, and of course sometimes there's that moment of, horror, panic, or whatever it might be. But then I go, okay, this has happened. What can I do?
That's the way to do it. That's the only way to do it is to start looking for solutions rather than fretting over what might happen or what has happened that you can't redo.
That's exactly it.
Well, the bottom line is a person who herself has effectively accomplished midlife rebirth and renewal. What advice would you give to listeners who find themselves over 40 and looking to make a change?
I would say one of the first things is really assess your life. What areas of your life are you satisfied with? What areas of your life are you really happy with? What areas are you unhappy with? And is there something that you can do to change that? And what steps can you take to change that? Sometimes
the most important thing, what do you really want out of the future? Because so many people don't have that question answered, and they can't really strive toward a goal if they don't really have a firm goal or idea of what they want.
Yeah, and one of the ways that, either you can tell from yourself or somebody else can tell is you start talking about different things, and maybe something you want to do or something you might be interested in. When you talk about, that thing that you are passionate about, your whole posture changes, your face lights up, your voice changes. I mean, it's, you're almost transformed in that moment. And
especially if you really believe you can accomplish it. With some faint dream or something, then probably just going to fly away in a few days. But if it's really something you want, like you say, your whole attitude and outlook change.
Yeah, and so if there is something like that that excites you, then figure out, what can I do so that I can do more of that? And realize that we have a great deal of experience. We have a wealth of knowledge. Many people are retired at this time in their lives, and they've got more time to do what they want to do. And it really is just coming down to what makes you excited, what makes you happy, what have you always wanted to do, and how can you just take the first steps in making it happen.
You may be retired from your career, but by golly, you don't have to be retired from life. That's the key.
Oh, yeah, because, and I'm glad you said that, because I could think of someone that I know that, was a very successful person, just well-loved by everybody, by the students, by the community. He was urged, you need to retire, go have fun. So eventually he did retire, and a year later he committed suicide because he had no purpose anymore. He sat in front of the TV until he couldn't take it anymore.
That's enough to depress you anyway today.
Yeah, it's tragic, but you got to look for what is your purpose, what is your new purpose, what do you want, what excites you, and just
Let's
do it.
talk about your forthcoming book, Life After 40. As a successful rancher, what inspired you to write a book about aging?
Well, again, it comes down to just seeing some people that I know that, they're in their 40s or 50s and they've been working or they've lost their jobs because they've been replaced by younger workers, for instance, and maybe they don't need to be paid as much. And they feel like they're stuck. They can't find a job. It is really hard for a middle-aged person to find work oftentimes.
Yeah, there's record low unemployment, but that doesn't mean most middle-aged people can find the job they want. Like you say, they often end up in far less inspiring jobs than they once had because of that. But
yeah, and and I see so many of them that are they're at retirement age, but then they're in financial difficulty, or they're alone and they're sad and they're miserable, and so I just was seeing more and more of that, and I thought, I need to do something, at least get my story out there, and maybe if it can help anybody else, that's really what I want.
Well, I noticed in the title of your chapters there's some reference to farming. For example, Chapter 6, The Mature Body, something in the way she moves, or Chapter 8, Relationship, if you don't listen, you can't hear the corn growing. Is an intent for readers to liken mastering the good life at age 40 and beyond to employing the knowledge and skills of a successful farmer? Is that what the point you're trying to get across? I guess in some ways.
Yes. The advice, as I mentioned, is going to be for any anybody embracing or, reaching their maturity. But I have learned so many lessons from the farm, and I want to share those and, using some metaphors, using some stories, some examples. But it's really, the farming is so much a part of me. I almost finished the book, and then I realized, I'm a farmer, and I just felt like the book was missing something. And so I realized I needed to put, this farming aspect, which is, part of my core, as I mentioned earlier. I really need to incorporate that into the book, and so that's what I've done.
Well, as we're recording this, the book isn't quite available yet for the press for people to buy. When do you expect it to be actually published, and where can our listeners go to check on progress so they'll know when and where they can go to find it?
Well, you can go to the website thriveafter40.com, and that's the number 40. So thriveafter40.com. The book will be available this summer. It is about to go to publishing, and so it shouldn't be too awful far away. But they can go to the website, go to the contact page, and ask to be put on the list. And when it is available, we will contact you and let you know.
Well, that sounds great. And in conclusion, whether you're facing a personal crisis or simply bored and disgusted with the way things are, middle age is a great time for change and new beginnings. And your kids are all grown or soon will be. There's near record unemployment in North America today. And to help you settle upon what you really want to do with your second half and how to get there, my guest, Sandra Matheson's upcoming great new book, Thrive After 40, may be just the guidebook for you. And to quote Sandra, my hope is that this book will help you accept the wild second half ride with dignity, anticipation, and with a fire in your spirit. So push off with all the strength you can muster, and instead of screaming for it to stop, which it won't, I challenge you to raise your arms, scream with delight, and declare to the world, bring it on. And here's an idea. May I suggest that you purchase and read both Sandra Matheson's new book, Thrive After 40, along with my own, A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, by Roy C. Richards, because the books complement each other very well. And remember, you'll find my book on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, or through our website, MiddleAgeRenewal.com. And both Sandra's book and mine were written to convince you beyond any doubt that once you open your spirit, heart, and mind to possibilities, the sky is the limit. Once again, Sandra's full title is Thrive After 40, How to Seize Life and Grow Your Dreams. And thanks so much, Sandra, for inspiring us here today through your sage advice, the advice of a person who's committed to the land and has lived in farming all her life.
Well, thank you very much. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
And to all of you out there, whatever the weather or season, let's all go out for the wonderful days that lie just ahead and enjoy that ride downhill, maybe with still a few bumps in the road, but we can handle that, so bring it on. And we may say this almost every week, but without a doubt, for those refreshed, renewed, and in control, middle age and even early stages of latter age can be the best years of your life. Now that my guest Sandra Matheson has pointed the way to a new beginning, I'm certain each one of us will want to consider putting on our Cowgirl or Cowboy suit. Before I go, I'd like to briefly describe a traumatic health scare I personally suffered just last week, one that turned out basically to be a false alarm. You may recall that on last week's program, guest Ted Baxter described his long battle to rehabilitate from a massive stroke he suffered in 2005, and it took Ted years to recover his ability to speak, read, write, restore full memory, and regain full use of his right arm and right leg, a major rehabilitation challenge. And by the way, you can go back and listen to last week's May 20th, 2019 episode at any time from our program website. And ironically, the May 20th issue of People magazine featured a major article on the recovery efforts of former country music star Randy Travis, who suffered a near-fatal stroke in 2013. Randy miraculously survived the stroke with wonderful inspiration from his soulmate, now his wife, Mary. And this is the wonderful thing. They were married in 2015, 2 years after his stroke. A wonderful gesture by Mary. I must really love the man. And in every picture and people that showed, Randy has a big smile on his face, so he hasn't given up and he's striving. And although he has trouble speaking and has lost usage of his right hand, Randy still likes to interact with fans, walk and ride around on a wheelchair in his ranch, and remarkably is just now releasing a memoir written with the help of a ghostwriter who has interpreted everything that Randy had to tell him, even though it's very hard for him to speak. Quite an accomplishment. So both Ted Baxter and Randy Travis have displayed tremendous courage, willpower, and persistence in accepting the consequences and then rehabbing from their massive strokes. No, their lives are not the same, and you may recall from last week that Ted says his life actually is far better as he educates and offers stroke prevention and recovery advice to others, and he's just released his own new book. The People article relates that Randy Travis, now 60, and wife Mary still share the dream that someday he'll sing again. And I personally have several of Randy's records. I'm really a Randy Travis fan, and I certainly hope that he does. Anyway, on to my own scare that in hindsight seems to be changing my life a little bit for the better. On last Friday, I was having morning coffee and reading the paper. Yes, I still do that. Most people just go to the internet now, I guess. But then I noticed that I didn't feel all that well. And as you may recall, one of the first signs of a stroke, as spelled out in Ted Baxter's BEFAST, BFAST acronym, is face drooping, trying to smile, only to discover that one side of your face is not cooperating. Remembering that, I went and looked in the mirror, and lo and behold, the whole right side of my face was hanging low. When I smiled, the right side of my mouth wouldn't open, and my right eye wouldn't fully close. And as you undoubtedly know, Ted Baxter and all other stroke experts tell you to get to a hospital as soon as possible when any of those common stroke symptoms occur. So that's what we did. My wife Gloria drove me to our nearest hospital emergency room, which fortunately is only 5 minutes from our house. And luckily, I did not have any of the other common stroke symptoms, loss of balance, blurred vision, trouble speaking, or inability to raise one or both arms. But the sagging face was more than enough to scare the bejeebies out of me. The good news, the hospital ran the standard tests for stroke and nothing showed up. Turned out I was suffering not from a stroke, but from Bell's palsy. Never heard of it? Well, it's face sagging that happens when a nerve in one side of your face becomes inflamed, but it is not a stroke. It has nothing to do with a stroke. Medical professionals are not certain just what causes Bell's palsy. Some experts think it's caused by a virus. But the good news, although the emergency room doctor prescribed 7 days of medication, which I'm now through taking, Bell's palsy generally heals itself. Different recovery lengths for different patients, but in the end, almost everyone's face returns back to normal. And I can report now that after a week, my face no longer sags much at all. My wife tells me she no longer notices a difference, and I can smile again, same old ugly face. But here's my personal miracle. I feel like God is telling me something, most likely to slow down a bit, smell the roses, and interact more lovingly with my spouse, family members, friends, business associates, also to take more interest and express more concern for strangers or casual acquaintances that I come in contact with along my daily routine. And for the past several days, I've been trying this tactic. It's working, and it feels great. Like the other day, I complimented a man who went out to get the mail they just put an addition to their house, and I told him how I had admired it before, but I made a point of telling him that I really admired his house, and I know he appreciated that. That kind of thing can really work wonders both for yourself and for the mood of others. And I recommend that you try the same loving approach. No, you don't have to tell everyone on the street hello, but just have that positive attitude as you walk along. And no, you needn't wait for a stroke or even Bell's palsy to deploy it. And that's our program for today. Now let's all go out and grasp spring and catch us next week on another episode of Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, hosted by Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of both A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, and Wake Up, Captain and Crew, Restart Your Engines. You can learn more about Roy and his Middle Age Renewal Training System by visiting his website, middleagerenewal.com.